Welcome to this webinar that is hosted by PEFC International for the launch of PEFC RED II certification. So today, there are four of us who will take turns in sharing some very important information for you. My colleagues, so Claire Pam, who is a RED II project coordinator, and she will tell you a little bit about the RED II directives and the timeline that PEFC has been following. Then we will welcome Marta Martinez-Pardo, a certification program senior manager, who will take you quite in depth of the PEFC RED II standard. So quite a technical element, but then most of you have already this understanding. And then finally, we will have my colleague Hannah Prince, communications manager, who will walk you through the PEFC RED II benefits, as well as sharing the tools that we have prepared for you. I'm Fabienne Sinclair, Head of Market Engagement. I will be the moderator, as well as taking you through a very high-level overview on PEFC. So we are together for 90 minutes, an hour and a half. There is more or less an hour of, a bit more than an hour of presentations. It's quite dense, but you will be receiving the recording and the presentation afterwards, but it is quite dense. We have a live Q&A through the Q&A icon that you see at the bottom of your screen. So do type your questions in as we go along, and we have going to have a 15-minute Q&A at the end. But please, we invite you to start dropping your question as we present. All right. So with all of that said, I'm going to now kick off with a very short overview of PEFC. Most of you know PEFC. Some of you are certificate holders. Some of you are not yet. But in a nutshell, the program for the endorsement of forest certification was born in 1999. So yes, already 25 years ago. And it was funded by small and family forest owners to give them access to the certification market. We are global, we are non-for-profit, we are non-governmental organization. And very importantly, we are now an alliance of national forest certification systems, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Voluntary mechanism, market-based voluntary mechanism, really focusing on promoting sustainable forest management through third-party certification to ensure that your responsible practices are recognized, verified and recognized. All right, so PEFC really wants to be about collective strength. We are about collective strength, and this is now coming through as being the largest scale of certified area and therefore certified material input into your supply chain, into your value chain. That's achieved through nearly 300 million hectares of certified forest. And you can see here with those green countries, through 45 countries that are endorsed by PEFC Council, endorsed in terms of the sustainable forest management benchmark. Traceability is achieved through over 28,000 chain of custody certified sites in 84 countries. So very important, and both hectares and certified site certificates and certified sites are growing around the world. And this is very important in terms of your dedication to sustainable forest management and traceability of material. So in a nutshell, from forest to consumers, there are two core parts of forest certification. Our DNA is very much into the forest, in protecting forest and the sustainable forest management for healthy forest ecosystems, healthy workers' rights, healthy communities, and in the context of listening and considering indigenous peoples' communities, and healthy local economy. very important to give a value to forest so that they stay forest. In terms of the value chain, this is the second step. So the traceability of this material, either traceable from a sustainable managed forest or traceable through controlled sources elements, to really ensure that the legality compliance, but also some of the social requirements in the value chains. And of course, all of this is then transferred to consumers via retail. And if you wish to use the PEFC label, then if everything is in order throughout, you can use it either on product or on your sustainability reports and your website. So on product label or off product label. And not only there are those two core standards that I've just mentioned, SFM, forest and trees outside forest and chain of custody, but those are supported by 9 other additional standards and technical documents. So it's really ensure that everything is clear for those robust requirements and quality requirements. Now, today we're talking about RED II, but you may have heard that we've also just launched our PEFC EUDR compliance solution. And as the EU Commission and Parliament and Council have just about agreed that the 12 months delayed is approved, then we are very happy to say that we are also ready and rolling it out through CBs for the DDS and through our national members for also the SFM part. And a final note before I hand over to my colleague in terms of really the core essence of the PEFC certification model that strive to separate roles and responsibilities in as far as the role of responsibilities of the accreditation bodies that assess and monitor certification bodies who themselves assess, audit economic operators. So yourself as a certificate holder or your supply chain, your suppliers, if you are an end user. And all of this is, of course, with the ambition and the objective of being independent, impartial, transparent, and have the full traceability. So with that said, I will now hand over to my colleague Claire Pham, who's going to walk you through a little bit about the EU Commission RED II elements and how PEFC has aligned to it. Claire, I can see you're now getting ready, and we now have quite a few people in the audience, so which is great. And I remind you that you can drop your questions into the question and answer. Super. Claire, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Fabienne. So hello, everybody. Now I would like to provide you further information about the RED II directive and the PEFC RED II certification. Before we go into the deep knowledge of RED II directives, so I would like to provide you some principle and some general information. So RED II is stand for the Renewable Energy Directive recast, and renewable energies is one of the collective name for the energy that produced from the earth resource, natural earth resource, and this resource must be replenished more than it consumed. And some example of the renewable energy sources such as the solar, the wind, the water resource, and also the agricultural biomass and the forest biomass. And directive is one of the legislative act, binding act of the Europe, and is normally setting the binding target for all the EU countries to follow. That's why when we talk about renewable energy directive, we normally mention what is the target of this directive. And on the slide, you have the milestones for the renewable energy in Europe. I'm not going to detail of each milestone, but it is for your information. And you could see that the milestone of renewable energy directives start in 1991 when Germany first introduced the feed-in tariff for renewables. And in 2001, the directive on electricity production from renewables was the first one who set the national indicative targets. And it followed 2003, another directive on renewable fuels, biofuels for transport with the national target was introduced. The first Renewable Energy Directive, or Renewable Energy Directive RED I, was into force in 2009. It set the target of 20% renewable shares by 2020, and it allowed also setting the national binding targets. With this renewable energy directive, RED I, the pace of renewable energy has been going sharply in Europe. And in 2018, the European Commission, they revised the Renewable Energy Directive, came into force with the RED II. This one is setting the continuous target for EU countries with the total of 32% renewable target for 2030. In 2019, it was the first time the production from wind and solar surpassed coal for the, and during the period of 2019 to 2023, there were a lot of conversation and working group discussing the pace of renewable energy. And that's why in 2023, RED III came into force, and they raised the target for 2030 from 32% in RED II to 42.5% for RED III for all the EU countries. And now we go more in depth in the PEFC, in the RED II directive, or Renewable Energy Directive 2018, revised of 2001. And as I mentioned before, it established the binding renewable energy target for EU countries for 2030. This directive is an agreement on the production of biomass in a sustainable way for an effective reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. The EU countries, they can transpose the directive into their national legislation, such as law or regulations, and they can introduce more stringent sustainability criteria. The renewable energy source from biomass needs to fulfill the sustainability criteria. In the next slide, I will go more in depth with this criteria. And for RED II, and the European Commission can recognize a voluntary scheme, and or the member state, they can also set up the national schemes. So this scheme will set up the standards for the demonstration of RED II compliance. And the European Commission, they allow the mutual recognition amongst these voluntary and national scheme. So on the slide now, you have the RED II sustainability criteria. Compared to RED I, RED II extend its sustainability criteria to include also the biomass, beside the biofuel and bioliquid for transport. So now for RED II, you have the land criteria for agricultural biomass and for forest biomass. The organization who provide and supply the forest biomass for the power plant using forest biomass for heating, cooling, and electricity, they need to fulfill the minimizing sustainability harvesting, and also addressing the land use change emissions. Beside that, we from the end user side, more downstream, the energy producer, they need to comply with the GHG emission saving criteria. So the companies produce energies need to have at least minus 70 have at least 70% of biomass or biogas for new heat and power plants, and from 2026 it would be 80%. And the bio energy producer who is having the site of more than 50 megawatts needs to comply with the efficiency criteria as well. The bioenergy producers who fail to comply with this criteria are liable to administrative penalties, and because they are failing to comply with this criteria, they may not contribute to the European Renewable Energy Directive that I mentioned earlier, and they may not receive the public aid, or their aid can be suspended. So what is the role of certification within RED II? As I mentioned, the European Commission, they can recognize the voluntary scheme, or the member state, they can set up the national scheme. And this scheme is to set up the standards for the production of biofuels, bioliquid or biomass fuel, and other fuels that are eligible for counting towards the RED II targets. And this standard is for the management system to collecting the evidence and demonstrate the compliance with RED II sustainability criteria. And this certification also needs to provide the accurate data on the greenhouse gas energy saving. And by using these certifications, the organization can demonstrate the compliance with the sustainability and greenhouse gas saving criteria, meet the legal obligation, meet the adequate standard of transparency, reliability, independent auditing, and can be access subsidies for power plants operate in Europe Union countries. And for the producers, before the power plants, they can get the benefits of having premium price from this. And this certification needs to follow the third-party verification framework using the certification body to perform the verification of compliance. Now I'm talking about the recognition process for the European Commission for the voluntary scheme. We're not talking about the national scheme because they are having a different process. So for the voluntary scheme, first of all, they need to go through the assessment process by the European Commission and achieve the technical recognition. And normally this process will go from 5 to 8 rounds with a very thorough assessment by the European Commission and also the experts. After achieving the technical recognition, the scheme needs to get the political recognition in order to get fully recognized. And this political recognition is proceed under the level of the European Commission, and it includes the internal Commission consultations, voting within the RED II committee on the sustainability of biofuels, bioliquids, and biomass fuels, translation of the decision to all the EU official language, and adaptation and official publication. And as Fabian mentioned before, and also you could see from the RED II requirements, we have a lot of synergy between RED II, the directive, and what we are doing as a third-party verification framework. We have so many synergy between RED II and PEFC. And we also receive a lot of demands from our stakeholder globally, and considering the fact that the forestry accounts for more than 60% of all the EU domestic biomass supplied for the energy purpose. And we see that going with as a voluntary scheme for RED II, we can benefit our existing PEFC chain of custody certificate holders that have to comply with RED II, and we can diversify our offers for the certifications. That's the reason why we applied and to be getting involved in the recognition process in order to become a voluntary scheme recognized by the European Commissions. This is a timeline of our recognition process, and it started in June 2021. And as you see on the slide, it's been a long time we are working on this recognition and development of the standards. And finally, on 11 October 2024, we received a positive technical assessment granted by the European Commission. The information about the positive technical assessment is now on the European Commission website. So which means as we receive the positive technical assessment, what left is that we need to achieve the political recognition in order to be fully recognized as a voluntary scheme. Further information about PEFC RED II certifications, we cover globally, and this is a voluntary model that the companies can decide to adopt and obtain certificate if they want to be RED II compliance. This certification is built over the PEFC chains of custody. It has a lot of synergy between chains of custody and RED II, which Martha will explain to you later. And for PEFC RED II, we add and complement chain of custody standards with the requirements that needed to have in order to be RED II compliance. And most of chain of custody requirements remain the same. And for PEFC RED II, we cover full biomass supply chains. Here we have PEFC RED II scope. We cover the forest biomass supply chains. So including the type of biomass, we have lignocellulosic materials derived from forest biomass, processing residue from the forest-related industry, and the lignocellulosic materials waste. We don't cover the biomass from agriculture, aquaculture, or fishery source or its residues. The lignocellulosic tree outside forest materials, such as from the urban area or from the areas that the tree outside forest are not the main objectives for agricultural productions, then we consider it as the processing residues for the RED II purpose. And for the type of fuels, we cover biomass fuels, such as pellets or wood chips or other biomass fuels. And for the production of heating, cooling, and electricity. We don't cover bioliquids, biofuels, biogas, renewable liquid, and recycled carbon fuels. PEFC RED II standards consists of 3 standards. The first one is for the organizations. We call it PEFC SD 5002. It's similar for the chain of custody. We have 2000. The number is similar. Number 2 is similar with PEFC chain of custody 2002. And the PEFC SD 5003 is the additional requirements for certification bodies providing certification against PEFC SD 5002. And the third one is 5004 is the requirements for the development of level A risk assessment and its recognition by PEFC. What is level A risk assessment? The explanation will be in the part that Martha will share with you later. And as we mentioned, this is a voluntary approach, and with a modular approach built up on the PEFC chain of custody. So which means that the companies, in order to get PEFC RED II, they need to have or about to hold the PEFC SD 2002 certificate. They must either have it already, PEFC chain of custody certificate, or they need to obtain PEFC chain of custody and PEFC RED II at the same time. After having the chain of custody certificate, the company can decide to implement PEFC RED 5002. The certification body will conduct the audits for the company based on RED 2003 and RED 5003. After the audit, and if there is no non-conformities, the certification body can issue the PEFC RED II certificate. And with this certificate, the company can declare and deliver the materials as RED II compliance under PEFC RED II, under PEFC scheme. And please note that in the context of RED II certification, PEFC does not allow multi-site or group certifications. And with this, I think that the end of my part, and Martha will now go explain further about these standards.
Thank you very much, Claire. So now we understand a bit more about the PEFC RED II and where the European is coming from, and Marta will share with you how this has been implemented in our standard in the context of PEFC RED II standards. I can see there are a few questions already, but please continue to type your questions into the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. Marta, I see you are ready, so the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabienne, and thank you everybody for joining us today. So now we will dive into some technical aspects of the PEFC RED II standards. We will start by the requirements for the organizations sourcing forest biomass, so the requirements for the organizations within the RED II supply chain and that are going to have to implement the RED II requirements. Those organizations need to comply with the standard 5002. You have on the screen the structure. Just a few notes on the structure. It's basically, as any other PEFC standard, is following ISO main structure, starting with the scope, followed by the normative references, afterwards terms and definitions, and next we have the main requirements on the standard. Within the main requirements, we have Chapter 4 with the requirements for the chain of custody control method, the mass balance system. Chapter 5, additional requirements for those organizations that are supplying lignocellulosic material from residues and waste. We will go into detail on the different chapters later on through the slides, but it's already a question. Yes, we covered under the scope lignocellulosic material from waste and residues. Following Chapter 6 is the Level V evidence, requirements for Level V evidence. Also, we will detail what Level V means. It's risk assessment at sourcing area level. Chapter 7, the GHG calculation requirements, and a few appendices aiming to facilitate the implementation. Among others, the appendices include the GHG default values from the directive for easy references. There are several synergies between chain of custody and RED II. Basically, and many of you are already chain of custody certified. So basically what the RED II standards do is that they complement the existing standard, in some cases by interpreting the current chain of custody standard. There are new definitions, there are some differences, for example, on the approach to multi-site, that as Claire mentioned, is not allowed. Some differences at chain of custody method level. And in parallel, there are also additional requirements that are not covered by chain of custody. A clear example is, for example, the full GHG calculation chapter that we don't have on the chain of custody standard, and that is one of the main goals on the RED II certification. Key question: who needs to be RED II certified? Which companies are concerned by this? First of all, first gathering point. So those points that are receiving the material from the forest biomass producers. This can either, we will see some examples later on, but this can be either a company within the forestry sector that is collecting forest biomass from different forests, or the company that is converting the forest biomass into biomass fuel. Collection point is the first gathering point for waste and residues. So the company that is collecting the waste and the residues from the producers of those waste and residues. Another company that is concerned by RED II certification is the one that is converting either the forest biomass or the lignocellulosic material from waste and residues into biomass fuel. Similarly, the supplier between the producers of the biomass fuel and the energy producers, so it can be trading companies or those that are bringing the material to the energy producers, and to finish with the energy producers that are the ones that are going to have to conduct the GHG calculations. Some more details on the first gathering point. So the first gathering point, the company gathering the forest biomass from the forest, is the first one within the RED II supply chain that needs to get a RED II certificate and that needs to provide RED II declarations. To be noted that on the standard 5002, the first appendix includes a template voluntary to be used, but it's to guide companies through the information they need to pass on to the suppliers. The information to be passed on is any information that is needed for the ones at the end of the RED II supply chain, the energy producers, to prove that the material was indeed sustainable according to RED II and to conduct the GHG calculations. Here you have an example of a RED II supply chain. We have a forest. There are harvesting operations happening in the forest, and from these harvesting operations, there are some residues. This would be raw material that goes to a power plant. In this case, for these residues from forestry activities, the power plant is here acting as first gathering point because it's receiving the residues directly without no company as intermediate. Forest residues, so residues from forestry activities, those are considered as forest biomass and they need to comply fully with the RED II sustainability criteria. In this case, we also have some forest residues that go to a platform. In this case, will be the platform that will be the first RED II certificate holder, so the first gathering point. And at the same time, this platform is supplying to the power point. So on the second line, we see that the power plant is not acting for these sources as first gathering point, but instead receiving the information from the platform. In parallel, we have some logs from the forest that go to a sawmill for different purposes. And when the sawmill is cutting those logs, there is some residues, some sawdust, some chips, some residues. And those residues go to a producer of biomass fuel. And in this case, is the producer of the biomass fuel that would be the first gathering point for these specific resources. TOF, PEFC also covers trees outside the forest. TOF means trees outside the forest, and it covers trees outside the forest whenever they don't fall under the RED II requirements for agricultural. So, for example, examples of TOF that would be considered would be trees in road edges, or when the result of the agricultural production is not the tree. Then this could also fall on the RED II supply chain. Those goes to the producer of the biomass fuel, acting as first gathering point. And on the last line, we can see waste from, in this case, it seems from household waste. It will be in a waste center. The waste center source this material to the producer, and the producer is the first gathering point acting as collection point, because as we mentioned earlier, when the first gathering point is collecting waste and residues, they are called collection points. And they are sourcing the biomass fuel to the power plant. So here you see who needs to obtain the RED II certificate. And this is another example. It's a similar example. What we want to highlight is, as in the previous example, that the same company may have a role as first gathering point if it's sourcing directly from the producers of the forest biomass or the recycled material, the waste and residues, and at the same time, it can have different roles. It can also be sourcing from a first gathering point that provides the declaration. Moving on now to another key topic within RED II certification. For PEFC RED II certification, multi-site certification or producer groups are not allowed. Why? Because the directive doesn't allow it. And what does it mean? In which cases it's not allowed? What is key here is the differentiation between the definition of site in terms of multi-site and organizational unit within RED II. Why? Because we can have an individual RED II certificate covering different organizational units as soon as none of these organizational units has their own purchasing, processing, or sales. And for the processing, it's important to highlight that at forest level, certain activities such as screening or air drying are not considered as processing. Processing would be, for example, if the material goes from the forest yard to another facility and there is some sort of, for example, chemical drying happening, then we have clearly to separate sites and to separate RED II certificates. So, in a nutshell, a key element, different legal entities need to get different and separate individual RED II certificates and implement the requirements separately. That's one of the key elements of RED II. In chain of custody, we can have different legal entities under a multi-site certificate. RED II doesn't accept this. Each different legal entity obtains a separate RED II certificate, gets a separate internal audit, a separate individual external audit, and a separate certificate. For chain, and a question that we received in the morning, so I'm already answering, what happens if you are a chain of custody certificate holder as part of a producer group or a multi-site and you want to obtain RED II certification? You can keep your membership as part, your participation as part of a multi-site at chain of custody level, and in parallel obtain a RED II individual certificate. So you don't need to suddenly also switch your chain of custody certificate to an individual certificate. Both are compatible. Here, going into example, this is at forest level. This is an example of 3 different organizational units, and at headquarters, all belongs to the same legal entity, and all could obtain the same individual RED II certificate because only purchasing and selling and processing is happening at the headquarters. The other organizational units are not doing as such any purchasing, processing, or selling. And we see that at forest level, some of those forest yards may be permanent, some may be temporary. Here we have an example of a multi-site certificate, a chain of custody multi-site certificate. We have to start with, this would be 2 separate legal entities, but they are all covered under the same chain of custody multi-site because they share the same management. However, if we go to RED II, we see that this same chain of custody multi-site should obtain 2 different RED II certificates because there are 2 legal entities, and in addition to that, because there are 2 entities conducting their own purchasing, processing, and selling. So here we will have 2. On the first example, we see that there is an storage besides the forest level. If there is a company within the supply chain that has a second organizational unit doing only storage activities, but in a different address, that would also be covered by one single RED II certificate, as long as both the headquarters and the storage belong to the same legal entity. How can we show compliance with RED II sustainability criteria when we are sourcing forest biomass? How can we do it? There are 2 ways. Either implementing a level A. Level A is the existence of a risk assessment against the legislation of a country that proves that the country, through the legislation, already complies with the RED II sustainability criteria. This is what the directive calls level A and what we call in our standard level A. Level B is when it does not exist such a country risk assessment and the company So me, I'm a company and I'm sourcing forest biomass. I need to make sure that this forest biomass complies with the RED II sustainability criteria. As there is no country risk assessment, I need to conduct a risk assessment at sourcing area level. On this slide, we see it a bit clearer. So I'm a RED II certified company. I'm sourcing this forest biomass from country X. The first question I'm going to have to ask to myself when sourcing the forest biomass is, does a country risk assessment recognized by PEFC exist for this country? And here, important to highlight, PEFC can conduct their own country risk assessments. We have developed a separate standard 5004. The assessments as such are not conducted by PEFC, but by external experts. What we put in place is the requirements that those external experts and their risk assessment need to comply with in order to be recognized by PEFC. So on the one hand, PEFC can recognize country risk assessments, but on the other hand, and in parallel, and this is important, PEFC also recognize country risk assessments conducted by other recognized RED II schemes. So for instance, if the main other schemes working with forest biomass, SUR or SBP, if SUR or SBP have already recognized a country risk assessment that covers our country X, or instead of X, let's say Spain, and according to SUR or SBP, the country risk assessment says that the Spanish legislation complies with RED II, PEFC recognizes this country risk assessment. So if you are sourcing from Spain, that biomass is already compliant with RED II, provided you comply with the other requirements. For instance, you need a self-declaration from the forest owner. So we are there. We have received this material. We check whether there is a country risk assessment or not. If there is such a country risk assessment, we need to check whether the results of the country risk assessment shows compliance at legislation level against all the RED II sustainability criteria or only with a few. If with all of them, great. I just need to implement the other requirements. If not, then I need to conduct a sourcing area risk assessment to make sure that the biomass is RED II compliant. And the requirements for the sourcing area risk assessment are all covered on the chapter 6 of the standard 5004. In those cases, what is fundamental is that the forest biomass comes delivered from a forest owner that is certified against a PEFC endorsed SFM standard. So if there is no country risk assessment, your forest biomass, the forest biomass you are sourcing, must be PEFC SFM certified. Identification of inputs. RED II organizations can supply biomass from a RED II supplier. So my supplier is already PEFC RED II certified and delivers the biomass with a RED II declaration. They can also supply forest biomass from a supplier certified against another RED II scheme, RED II recognized scheme. And this goes through also a RED II declaration. So as soon as it's a valid certificate against another RED II recognized scheme with the same scope as PEFC and deliver with all the information that you will need to provide, that's okay. The additional step, we will see it later, but I mentioned it already, is that you will need to conduct due diligence to make sure that the material doesn't come from controversial sources. What else? You can be supplying other forest biomass or forest activity residues. Then you will be acting as first gathering point. You can also source processing residues or waste, and you will be acting as collection point. On the last three, you will be either the first gathering point or the first collection point because you are the first company putting this material into the RED II supply chain. Applicable requirements, here it's a table to explain in a nutshell the applicable requirements according to the type of biomass. If you are sourcing a PEFC RED II declared biomass, which means you are not acting as the first gathering point, you need to conduct due diligence, but minimized, because your supplier has already conducted this due diligence. So you just need to make sure that there are no substantiated concerns and that all is good. You will need to comply with the RED II sustainability criteria, and you don't have to comply with the waste and residues criteria. If you are sourcing RED II forest biomass from other schemes, other recognized schemes, you need to conduct the due diligence system to minimize the risk that may come from controversial sources. You need to make sure that the biomass complies with the RED II sustainability criteria. Waste and residues are not relevant. Next one. Now you are sourcing residues from primary production processes, TOF. So it's what I mentioned earlier, for example, trees on road edges. These, in terms of RED II, are considered as residues. So they don't have to comply with the RED II sustainability criteria. However, they need to go through the PEFC due diligence system to make sure that they are not controversial, and they need to respond to the waste and residues. You can also source residues from primary production processes. This is what on the chain of custody standard we call byproducts. And this is also a key difference between the chain of custody and the RED II, where the chain of custody is more strict than the directive. In chain of custody terms, byproducts from primary processing are not considered recycled material. And that's why we require that those byproducts go through the due diligence system and result in negligible risk to come from controversial sources. They don't need to respond to the RED II sustainability criteria. They respond to the waste and residues criteria. Residues from secondary production processes, they just need to respond to the waste and residues criteria, and waste only to the waste and residues criteria. So, in a nutshell, all those materials, so primary production processes, residues, or TOF, that usually need to respond to the PEFC sustainability criteria, also need to respond to the PEFC sustainability criteria in RED II, even if for RED II purposes, they don't need to comply with the RED II sustainability criteria. Still, the PEFC is implementable in those cases. And only the material that is eligible as per the chain of custody to be classified as recycled material are excluded, because they are also excluded within the PEFC chain of custody. Moving on to the chain of custody methods to be implemented for RED II purposes. Basically, there are two: physical separation and mass balance. The mass balance is when there is mixture of forest biomass or lignocellulosic materials that can be in contact. They respond to different criteria. If there is mixed, then we use this one, or material that may not be RED II compliant, but is still controlled. Whatever enters into a RED II product group needs to go through the PEFC due diligence system and result in negligible risk in order to enter the product group. Here you have some physical separation method implementation. As you can see, you enter compliant material and your result is compliant. With the mass balance system, you can have mixture of RED II compliant and control sources that are not RED II compliant. The important points here to keep in mind is that there is no cross-site product groups or mass balance accounts. We don't allow multi-site neither. Each legal entity needs to operate its own mass balance system, and each independent mass balance system shall be implemented for each product group. Next step, GHG calculation requirements. To keep in mind, not all the organizations within the supply chain need to conduct these GHG calculations, only the ones producing the energy. Only the boilers and the ones at the end of the RED II supply chain will need to conduct these GHG calculations, because they are the ones that will need to report to the competent authority for the savings and to obtain subsidies. The rest of the companies within the RED II supply chain need to make sure that they provide to these end suppliers, so to these companies at the end of the supply chain, all the necessary information to conduct the calculations. So to prove that the biomass was indeed RED II compliant, and to be able to estimate the GHG calculations according to the country of origin, kilometers, etc. In order to conduct the GHG calculations, there are three methods: using default values, using actual value calculations or using an aggregated system between actual values and making the default value estimation. Default values is the most straightforward way, because you just need to take the value according to your parameters, and the values are given by the directive and the implementing regulations. All those values appear in Appendix 2 and 3 of the PEFC Standard 5002. And here I already mentioned which organization needs to implement the GHG value calculation, those that are at the end of the supply chain, the ones producing the energy with the forest biomass. Now we are going to move on to the technical requirements for the certification bodies that are going to be conducting the audits against this standard 5002. So the certification bodies that are going to go to the company and are going to audit that the company actually can obtain this RED II certificate. Key points. The standard follows the same structure as PEFC Standard 2003 and the same structure as ISO 17065, product certification. Same chapter, same structure. It includes additional requirements and in some cases, some interpretations to complement the Standard 2003. When conducting a PEFC RED II audit, certification bodies will be looking at both the Standard 2003 and 5003. And this also makes quite sense because in most cases, they are going to be conducting the chain of custody audit and the RED II audit at the same time, which builds up synergies and can reduce the audit cost because many requirements are the same. In addition to the requirements on the Standard 2003 and 5003, something to keep in mind is that in terms of operations, there is an additional procedural document, Guidance 5004, that will also need to be implemented. To provide audits against the Standard 5002, they also need to be qualified for chain of custody. Here the structure, similar as the other standards and the ISO standards. Operations, key points that CVs will need to sign, certification bodies will need to sign a PEFC RED II notification contract, and some additional points because we are currently developing a new database for RED II specific purposes. The idea is to find synergies and reduce the information burden on information sharing from all the different parts involved. Accreditation requirements. In order to be able to provide certification services against the RED II, there are certain accreditation requirements. Well, first of all, you need to be accredited and hold a valid accreditation for chain of custody. In addition to that, you will need to hold a valid accreditation under 17065, covering either the directive or the specific scope of the voluntary scheme. RED II also provides an alternative to accreditation through the recognition by the competent authorities. So this is to keep in mind. In some cases, this is happening. In addition, if CVs are auditing companies against GHG value calculations, so companies that are conducting actual value calculations, they also need to hold accreditation against ISO 14065. Important note, status on accreditation. As of today, the accreditation requirements are postponed. And the latest postponed until the end of the year. We are waiting for news from the European Commission, but it seems that it was recently voted by the member states, and probably we will receive the announcement soon that the accreditation requirements are postponed during 2 more years. So certification bodies will not need to be accredited specifically for the RED II directive until 2027 or 7, sorry, 2 years. Here, just quickly showing that we have specific requirements. There are some specific requirements in terms of qualification, experience, and competences, depending on the type of audits to be conducted. Auditors also need to receive qualified training, RED II qualified training. So in addition to the chain of custody qualification, auditors will need to go through a PEFC RED II training and pass a knowledge test, and the same conditions as for chain of custody. And some key difference and interpretation comes from the directive. Again, results of the audit are to be classified in addition to major non-conformities, minor, and observations. Auditors will need to also identify and classify non-conformities as critical when there is an intentional violation of the standard. Examples are fraud, irreversible non-conformities, or a violation that jeopardized PFC's integrity. And with this, I will hand over to Fabienne to carry on with a bit lighter part with not so many technical details.
That's right. Thank you very much, Marta. It's dense, but it's super important, and it was very precise and illustrated and illustrative. So now we are going into the benefits for you of PEFC RED II and some of the tools, and Hannah will walk you through those elements. Hannah, over to you.
Thank you very much, Fabienne. So as Fabienne said, now Claire and Marta have introduced you very comprehensively to the new PEFC RED II standards. I am going to cover a little bit what of the tools that we are making available to you to help you with your RED II implementation. So I'll cover two areas. I'll be looking at what we're doing for companies in the forest biomass industry, whether you're already PEFC chain of custody certified or not, and also tools for certification bodies. So first, we're going to look at what we are providing for companies. So as you heard from my colleagues, we recently published the PEFC Standard 5002, which they explained is the standard for companies in the forest biomass industry. It provides the interpretations and additional requirements to the PEFC chain of custody standard that organisations will need to implement to use the PEFC certification scheme for RED II compliance and to obtain a PEFC RED II certificate. So now the standard is published. What are your next steps practically towards PEFC RED II certification? So first, we recommend that you determine your role within the forest biomass supply chain. Are you a first gathering point, a collection point, an energy producer? As the answer to this will have a significant impact to the steps you will need to follow later. Next, you can read the PEFC RED II standard and familiarise yourself with its requirements, including the mass balance system chain of custody method, waste and residue requirements, and GHG emission calculations. So a lot of what Marta just went through. And finally, get in contact with your certification body to see if they're able to provide certification for the PEFC RED II standard, and also just to state your intention to apply for PEFC RED II certification. So these steps will all be an important basis for you to prepare to set up your PEFC RED II system. And I will give a little bit more detail on what we're doing to help you with this a little bit later. But what I want to do now is to provide you with some more information on why opting for PEFC RED II certification is the right choice for your company and how it can help you achieve your RED II compliance. And many of these have already been mentioned by my colleagues, but I'll just bring them all together so you can hear them in one place. So first up, we have simplified implementation. The PEFC RED II standard simplifies the complex RED II requirements by translating them into clear and understandable steps. Furthermore, it uses the standardized language based on ISO standards, as well as the PEFC chain of custody standard, which is familiar to thousands of companies around the world. So this essentially really helps to ease your process of implementation. Next, an important one, efficiency and cost saving. So the PEFC RED II synergies with the PEFC chain of custody certification enables you to reduce the time and resources you need for your RED II compliance, all while enabling you to maintain two certifications at the same time. And whether you're already PEFC chain of custody certified or not, this streamlined process can help you meet your RED II requirements more efficiently. It also lets you demonstrate your commitment to sustainability. By achieving PEFC RED II certification, you signal to the market and your customers that you comply with RED II requirements. But what's more, through the PEFC trademarks, you can really demonstrate your commitment to sustainable forest management, which helps enhance your credibility as well as your customer trust. One of the key advantages of PEFC RED II certification is its global applicability by any organisation within the supply chain. This really helps to facilitate the transfer of RED II data, as well as proof of RED II sustainable forest biomass across borders for companies both inside and outside the EU. We can also talk about the availability of sustainable raw material. So as Fabian said, with around 300 million hectares of PEFC certified forest area globally, you have access to a vast supply of sustainable forest biomass. This ensures you a reliable supply chain, but importantly, a supply chain backed by rigorous PEFC standards that go beyond the RED II sustainability criteria, supporting the long-term health of our forests. So this really enables you to meet your needs for forest biomass while supporting forest sustainability and responsible resource management. I can also say here at PEFC, we have 25 years of experience in certification and standards development in forest supply chains, and this is really another key advantage. Our long-standing knowledge of accreditation requirements, coupled with our global network of experienced auditors, can really help ensure a smooth and reliable process for your company. And it doesn't stop with RED II. Your PEFC RED II certification can be integrated with the PEFC EUDR DDS module, enabling you to build on the PEFC chain of custody framework to meet the requirements of both, so of both RED II and EUDR. So this streamlined approach can once again really help you save time and resources while aiding your compliance across both regulations. And talking of regulations, we can also look further into the future, as we know things never stand still or stay the same. By choosing PEFC RED II certification, you can easily take advantage of the full PEFC system. And this is a system that provides comprehensive certification solutions that continue to evolve with new regulations and stakeholder needs as they appear, really helping you with your ongoing compliance and your readiness for future demands. So just to recap, PEFC certification offers you a streamlined and globally applicable pathway to RED II compliance, blending efficiency with sustainability and credibility. Thanks to the simplified implementation, the reduced costs, and access to a robust supply chain of sustainable biomass, it will help equip your company to meet RED II demands while demonstrating at the same time your commitment to responsible forest management. So that's a bit about the RED II standard and how it can help you with your compliance. I now just want to take a couple of minutes to look at what we're doing to make PEFC RED II certification implementation a little easier for you. The first thing I want to draw your attention to is the PEFC RED II website, which you can access through the link you can see on the screen or by scanning the QR code. This website brings together all the latest news and tools regarding PEFC RED II certification. You'll already be able to find there a nice one-pager, which summarises all the benefits that I just went through. The website will also soon have a step-by-step guide explaining what PEFC chain of custody certified companies need to do to set up their PEFC RED II system. We've tried to make this really simple and clear, highlighting the steps that all companies need to do, things such as conducting a gap analysis, revising due diligence procedures, and staff training. We have also highlighted some key actions that certain companies within the supply chain need to do, such as organisations operating as collection point for wastes and residues, or what to do if there isn't a level A risk assessment in your country. So this tool is nearly finalised and we will be publishing it on the PEFC RED II website shortly. Looking a little further ahead, we're working on something similar for companies who are not yet PFC Chain of Custody certified, but are looking to achieve both certifications at the same time. Next year, we will be holding a series of PEFC RED II webinars developed specifically for companies in the forest biomass industry, covering various aspects of PEFC RED II certification. And this will be a really great opportunity for you to learn more, but also for you to ask us your questions. So how can you stay up to date on all the latest PEFC RED II information? So as I said earlier, we have the RED II website, which will always have the latest news. It will have the tools that we produce, dates for upcoming webinars, plus recordings from previous webinars. So this is a really great place for you to start. If you want the latest RED II information mailed directly to your inbox, you can sign up to the PEFC Technical Matters newsletter. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, where we will post all the latest PEFC RED II news. So this is a great way for you to be really fully up to date on what we're doing. And finally, if you do have any questions, you can reach out to us at red@pfc.org and our experts will get back to you. So that's everything for companies in the forest biomass industry. I know it was a lot of information in a short amount of time, but as I said, we will be making the recording available for you so you can watch it again, and you can also find all the benefits that I went through on our PEFC RED II website. I'm now going to shift and move on to certification bodies, where we're going to focus on the PEFC RED II training program. So this training program, as mentioned earlier, it has an e-learning approach and it's hosted completely online using the PEFC Knowledge Academy platform. So this means you're free to take the training at your own pace at a time that suits you. So the first course is the PEFC RED II General Training, which is compulsory for certification body auditors, reviewers, and certification decision makers. In addition, we will also hold some regular online Q&A sessions for certification body representatives. So the PEFC RED II General Training course, this is the training course that auditors need to take and pass so they are able to conduct PEFC RED II audits. To participate in the training, you already need to be PEFC Chain of Custody qualified, so you will have passed the knowledge test for PEFC Chain of Custody. The training covers the interpretation and explanation of requirements from PEFC Standard 5002, Standard 5003, and Guidance 5004. And just a quick note to say that this course doesn't cover the use of GHG actual value emissions calculations. So if you do provide certification services for organisation using these calculations, you will need to take the PEFC RED II GHG actual and disaggregated values calculations training once it's available. So just a quick overview of the training process. So first, you need to review the 3 documents. And next, you will receive the training link sent to you via email. Step 3 is to take the initial training. So the training comprises 12 modules, all of which are compulsory and have to be completed one after the other. So you can only unlock the next one once you have finished the previous one. The training takes approximately 8 hours to do, but it doesn't have to be all done in one day. You have 8 weeks to complete the training. You can log in and out in a pace that suits you, and the platform will save your progress until completion. After taking the training, it's time for the knowledge test, where you need a minimum score of 80% to pass. And then the last step is receiving your PEFC RED II certificate of training, which will be valid for 2 years and will expire either end of June or end of December, depending on the issue date. And finally, the online Q&A sessions. So these will be great sessions for certification bodies to have the opportunity to talk directly with our PEFC experts, getting further clarifications on requirements, making sure they have all the most up-to-date information. So essentially, you're CB representative can gather all the questions that you may have within your CB and take them to these online sessions to get answers. We'll hold these sessions regularly over the course of the year, and each certification body representative will receive an invitation to join via email from PFC. So we look forward to welcoming many of you to these sessions next year. So just to conclude from me, your next steps, if you haven't done so yet, you need to register your auditors, reviewers and certification decision makers for the general training. To do this, you just need to fill in the form. You can get it either through the link or by scanning the QR code, and then we will get back to you. As with companies, if you want to keep up to date on all the PFC RED II news, you can visit our RED II website, sign up to the Technical Matters newsletter and follow us on LinkedIn. And you can, of course, reach out to us at any time at red@pfc.org. So that is everything from me today. It was great to be able to share with you all of this, and we hope it does give you a good idea of what we're offering both to companies and certification bodies as we move through this PFC or this RED II journey together. And now I will hand back over to Fabienne, who will get the Q&A started.